6 o'clock, call to meeting to order, Wednesday, May 18th, 2022. Do a quick roll call. Mr. Gene Lindgren.
Present.
Rafael Miner.
Present.
J.D. Gonzalez. Out, not present. Guillermo Teach.
Present.
Present. Luis Hinojosa, not present. Juan Pasquel.
Present.
Present. Arturo Dominguez, not present. Hermilo Richer, present. William Young, not present. Gonzalo Prida, not present. Mr. Morris,
Present.
present. And Jerry Maldonado, not present. Okay. And do we have any public or citizen comments? Oh, nothing left to go? Okay, we'll go ahead and go to point number 4.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
for the record, if you could put me as present and mark me in.
I did not call you.
No, sir.
I'm sorry, I skipped you.
It's okay, just
sorry.
for the record.
Yes, sir. That was Mr. Pruitt for the record. So number 4, approval of minutes of last meeting's minutes. Did everybody have time to look over them? I can send them over by email.
So move.
Need a second? Teach, Guillermo Teach seconds. All in favor? Aye. And for items for discussion, we got a presentation by Clean Air Laredo Coalition. And for the record, Mr. J.D. Gonzalez is present. I'll put it down as. So on the presentation for the.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the committee. Kent Richard, Assistant Bridge Director. We have not seen Clean Air Laredo Coalition arrive as of yet.
Okay. Do we need a motion to move it to the last?
Yes.
Okay. I need a motion to move the item number 1 to the last position. Guillermo Teach, second. Juan Pasquel, second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It's moved to number 4. Okay, and we have a presentation by TxDOT. Mr. Tito, please come up. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the committee. For the record, Humberto Tito Gonzalez, Deputy District Engineer for the TxDOT Laredo District.
Fighting Aggie class of what?
Class of 2003. Yes, thank you, yes. So I want to thank you all for allowing us the opportunity, Ms. Limon and your staff for allowing the opportunity, extending it to have us come here and talk about the current state and the future plans that we have for the infrastructure for the TxDOT Laredo District. It is, I think the word to use is exciting times, right, for Laredo and the region. A lot of projected growth, a lot of projected infrastructure that we have planned. So part of this presentation is to kind of share the story of not only what we have under construction, what we have planned, but also what our kind of long-range planning looks like. Particularly, I was asked to kind of focus on the corridors of I-69, I-35, and 1472 near the World Trade Bridge port of entry. So my presentation will focus around there. But if you all have any questions during my presentation or after, I'd be happy to answer any of those for you. So just so everybody knows, kind of up on the map, the Laredo District just spanned 8 different counties, right? So we go all the way up to Del Rio, Eagle Pass, and then down to Laredo, all the way up from Valverde County, all the way down the south to Duval. And obviously, Webb being our largest county, and the city of Laredo being our largest urban population. So the story we want to tell, and I don't think that it's a story we have to tell much here, but the story that we tell everybody and the message we try to send is that Laredo is home to 4 major corridors with 1 major destination. Obviously, everyone is familiar with I-35, with I-69, which we currently have designated from the World Trade Bridge up to 35. And I'll show you the future plans that we have to continue to expand US 59 to the east to bring it up to interstate standards. You all may be familiar already with the future designation of I-27, which was in our district, will encompass US 277 and then US 83 as it connects to I-35 in our district up near mile marker 18 on I-35. And then you have Interstate 2, which will connect us down to our sister district, the FAR district, using 83 south down to the valley. So obviously with those four major destination corridors, one major destination, a lot of opportunity, a lot of planning, a lot of growth on how we're going to connect, you know, these four interstates here in the city of Laredo. So for those of you that are familiar, I just kind of gave a brief, right? That Portia Plain corridor, which constitutes US 277 and US 83 in our area, that was designated by the legislature through House Bill 1079. So that is how that corridor got designated. And the main purpose of that is to create another main north to south arterial throughout the entire state. I'm sure a lot of you may already know, but 70% of the population in Texas lives on 35 or to the east, right? I-35 is the only major north to south interstate throughout the entire state. When you think about how big the state is, this I-27 corridor is going to help further populate and drive economy throughout the rest of the state. So currently, in the TxDOT Laredo district, those 8 counties I showed you, we have $474 million of projects under construction. In Laredo, Webb County alone, we have $314 million currently under construction. One of the main projects that we have under construction, which I know is of probably great importance to a lot of people in here, is the expansion of I-69 to 3 lanes in each direction. That project went to letting for construction in August 2022 at a construction cost of $14 million. Obviously, the importance of that in conjunction with the project that the city of Laredo is doing to expand the fast lanes that does have $10 million of CBI funds, which was has oversight from TxDOT, is to create a more efficient flow and safe travel of commerce in and out of the World Trade Bridge, right? So that project, we hope to have it done here within the next year so that we can, like I mentioned here, in August of 2022, within this year, so that you all can continue to operate more efficiently in that area, in and out of the World Trade Bridge.
And how does the deadline look, like the completion date?
The deadline looks good. If you notice right now, we're widening the bridge, which is kind of the last phase that we have there. And then we're also going to be adding an off-ramp that comes off the direct connector that brings you into Laredo and takes you to the World Trade Bridge. We're adding a brand new off-ramp that's going to let you get off on that point so you don't have to go and get into the existing off-ramp that occurs. So for people that may be using that route to go into that warehouse in area, you can get off and already make that maneuver ahead of time instead of having to go down to the intersection of Mines Road and I-35. So that'll be an extra off-ramp that it doesn't currently exist right now. So you'll have an off-ramp.
And we're going to do it? Where is that going to be?
So the off-ramp that comes on the direct connector, that's coming south to west,
Yes, south.
that direct connector will have its own off-ramp, get off onto the furnished road.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So another major project that we have, just not even a mile east of there, is the project that everyone sees under construction, which we're bringing a brand new bridge over Union Pacific. So right now, just north of Shiloh, you go underneath the railroad bridge. We're gonna fill that completely once the bridge is done, and you will only go over it. We're building the 2 direct connectors. Direct connector number 5, which goes west on US 59 to south on 35. And then direct connector number 8, which goes east on 59, south to 35. And then we're also completing a section there to widen I-35 to 6 lanes. Texas has an initiative called the Texas Safe Lanes Initiative to widen 35 to 6 lanes throughout the whole state. So this is part of our part here to continue to complete that initiative. You see on there reference direct connector number 5 and number 8. If you look at what we have built right now in that intersection of I-35 and I-69, we currently have 3 direct connectors built. This project will complete 2 more. When we're said and done and everything's complete, there'll be 8. So I'll kind of tell you the story here where the next 3 are programmed to come down and get constructed in that area. So the exciting part here, right? In the next 10 years, we still have over $1 billion of project funded in the Laredo district. And given the fact that I mentioned earlier that Laredo is our major urban area, given the importance of the World Trade Bridge to the rest of the state and the rest of the country, and obviously the population driven, which dictates a lot of the formula of how we get money, $660 million of that $1 billion is going to come to Laredo Webb County in the next 4 years. So it's going to be a very busy time for construction and a very good, a lot of growth and expansion for the city. So I just want to put a disclaimer here. I'm about to show you some estimates, some letting dates. As you all know, we live in a dynamic industry with prices of materials, construction costs going up. So all the information I'm going to show you, the let dates, construction estimates may be subject to revision. We do keep a close monitor on them, but obviously given the climate that we're under right now, some of them may be subject to change. So the first project I want to touch on here is the US 59 corridor, which is the future I-69. This project has almost $290 million of funds secured. So this is funded money that's already secured for this project. In addition to that, we have another $166 million of right-of-way costs associated with this project. So the main emphasis of this project is it's going to take US 59 or Loop 20 to interstate standards, right? So right now you only have 3 lanes in each direction. When it's all said and done, you're going to have a loop that looks like Loop 410 in San Antonio, right? You're going to have one-way furnished roads on each side with 3 lanes in each direction. And then you're going to have main lanes in the middle, 3 lanes also in each direction going north and southbound on Loop 20. So in total, you're going to have 12 lanes of traffic along that interstate I-69 corridor. So the first project that we have programmed for August of 2023 is going to build an overpass at Shiloh, an overpass at Del Mar, and an overpass at University. Along with those overpasses, like I mentioned, we're also building the furnished roads on the side also. So it's going to be a complete constructed interstate for those up to University. The project that follows is going to complete the overpass at Jackman and the overpass at Airport, along with the furnished roads in that area as well. And again, the point of this is this will complete or upgrade US 59 to interstate standards all the way from the World Trade Bridge all the way to the intersection of I-69 and Saunders.
Is that the proposed finish date or is that the start date?
So these dates are the proposed dates when we let the project. So what that means in TxDOT terms of letting means that's when we go to bids. TxDOT, if you are not familiar, we award the project to the low bidder that meets all the specification requirements the state has. So normally the construction start date is about 3 months from that let date. And obviously given a project as complex as this one, I believe the estimated time frame we have right now is about 36 to 40 months for that project right now.
Thank you.
Are you still missing some?
No, that is all the money, that is all the funding for those projects for the industry.
Are you still missing overpasses pending?
No, for that area, like I said, from this project, we'll complete interstate all the way from the World Trade Bridge all the way to Saunders. So complete, all the way to Saunders.
Some more.
Right, so when you look there, and I'll show you now what the plan is. The plan from there is going to be to take I-69 to the east, which is the ports to ports corridor that'll connect us with Houston eventually one day. So I'll show you that plan right. Another major project that we have funded is a bridge replacement and widening to I-35 to 6 lanes at the Uniroyal Interchange. So everyone is familiar with I-35 and mile marker 13 with the congestion that occurs at the Unitech Park and 35 in that area. So what we're going to do is we're going to completely remove and replace that bridge, that current overpass at Uniroyal. So underneath, as you exit Unitech to cross east and west, that's going to be an 8-lane section underneath there. 8-lane section, we fix the bridge. We obviously go in there and redo all the railroad crossings. So there's a lot of coordination we're doing right now with Union Pacific there. And then in addition to that, we're going to drop and design a brand new interchange about 1.5 miles north of there, where the future Chart-Rutinger connection is going to be. That's going to connect Mines Road with I-35. And the intent behind that, obviously, is to be able to properly plan a full, efficient movement interchange at that intersection, similar to what we have at I-35 and I-69. So when you think of long-term, I just mentioned right now 8 direct connectors. You see the multi-levels that we're building on I-35 and I-69. That is the plan that we have in the future for the intersection of I-35 and a Chart-Rutinger as well.
Oye, Tito, are they ever gonna align Killam with 35? You have to turn right and then turn left. And
So I kind of look back at Councilwoman over here, Ms. Perez. So we did have the discussion earlier today actually at the MPO. I think that is a good discussion. That currently is under the jurisdiction of the city of Laredo. As everybody knows, that Tres X bridge is there. So that is a conversation I think that we need to have. It was brought up at the Imperial meeting today, as far as, the standpoint that area would operate more efficient if that alignment did meet up and allow connectivity to the east as well. Obviously, we need to continue to look at other alternate routes to 35, to I-69 in the area as well, right? Because yes, we're taking them to interstate standards, but we also want to create alternate routes for people to use in that area.
What is the history of that? Why was it?
I cannot speak to that. I'm going to defer to maybe Councilwoman Perez if she wants to talk about that.
That's fine.
Obviously, within our right-of-way, we have our constraints there. TxDOT is for, continuing to expand out 35. So what you're seeing on here is just a portion of what we have planned, but we have planned every mile to mile and a half, we have an interchange planned all the way up to mile marker 18. So that is what TxDOT has in our long-range plans already in a schematic in place.
When you say long-range plans, over what period of time would you expect to see those start?
So those, again, the way those interchanges are gonna come in are gonna be based on need, right? And based on the growth of the city. So if you look at here, the Tres Equis Bridge, the next bridge is the Vallecillo overpass, right? So should Vallecillo be built and come in, the Vallecillo overpass, you have one over there. So that would probably be the next line. It moves out and it's gonna grow as population and as the demands are met to justify those overpasses being built. So.
I know you have programmed certain talking points, but you made a comment earlier in reference to population being a factor
Right.
of getting funding. You already see that we have the infrastructure needs and required. I mean, we got to move forward, and it seems like you're reacting more than being proactive. How can we make that push so we can go ahead and see what we could do? There's a legislation we have to talk to, because I know the money gets funneled from the federal to the state, and the state allots it to the required areas, so.
Yeah, so what you're showing again is just a portion of the presentation. There is a presentation that shows how we're being proactive. So this is the portion that's already funded. You'll look at the long-range plans that we have. So if you give me a chance, I'll explain to you that what we have planned for the future. But at TxDOT, we're planning already out for the next 15, 20 years. And when I talk about that, I mean, we're doing feasibility studies, we're getting schematics, we're getting plans in place, ready on the shelf for when funding does become available. To answer your question directly, yes, the population base is a major factor in a way that a lot of the allocations are provided to each district, right? There's 25 districts throughout the state. But obviously, the way we look at it is we're trying to situate ourselves as far as having a plan in place and showing legislature, showing Austin, showing our TxDOT division that we have the plan to grow with the hopes that funding will come. Now, I do want to make a disclaimer here. TxDOT, I'm not here to lobby for money. I'm not here to ask for money. TxDOT is not allowed to do that, but entities such as yourself and other organizations, city, county, do have the power, right, to go up and speak and voice your opinions and voice your concerns. Our hope is that with the information we provide, that you all can use that as a tool to show the readiness that we have to help continue to expand infrastructure in this area to meet your needs. So.
If I may, you say that you're basing it on population. Why would you all do that? That doesn't make any sense. When you have the largest inland port of the nation that's here, you got the bridges that are here, all the truck traffic, the amount. Wouldn't that be the driving force and not really the population, what needs to be done and what crosses through here every day?
Yeah, so that's a good point. So Laredo is in a unique situation, and David Salazar and myself were actually up at the Transportation Commission with the commissioners appointed by Governor Abbott about a month and a half ago, and we were talking about the unique challenges that Laredo has, because Laredo's unique that, yes, we may not have the population of, El Paso or San Antonio, those areas. We're not going to have it, but when you look at the truck aspects, that's where we start to, you look at it and say, what, those needs are specific to those unique characteristics we have in the region. So the importance of that, as I just mentioned earlier, is, certain fundings that we rely on, TxDOT relies on to build these big mobility projects are Category 2, Category 4, and Category 12. That Category 12 is a commissioner discretion funding allocation that's determined by the Transportation Commission. So that's where, we've been fortunate in the past. If you look at this I-69 project that I just mentioned, we got $220 million of Cat 12 funds in 2018. That is what is allowing us now to move to construction on that I-69 expansion. We do not set the regulations here locally. Those are state and federally mandated proportionments that are given to the state. So again, we hear it at every meeting we go to, why is it like that? We currently don't make those, but again, that is room for discussion. TxDOT knows it's, even the federal government knows that that needs to be discussed. And I think that may be somewhere where an organization such as yourselves will continue to voice your opinions of how we can get that possibly modified to assist areas such as ourselves that are unique areas.
Yeah, we did have that point with Congressman Cuellar as well, and see how he could help. I don't know what the next step, and maybe organizations that take it to the commissioner's office and go from there. As you mentioned, all the extra traders that come in every day, and also the border people that come in and spend the whole day in our city and then live across, either U.S. citizens or Mexican citizens. Mainly, a lot of them are U.S. citizens that live in Nuevo Laredo, but come over and work here, go to school here. And so that's not accounted for on that population study.
No, understood, and that's based also on franchises that want to come down and they don't take into consideration what's across the border.
Correct, yeah, you see that as a bank, yeah.
And that's always been our problem. Just one more question, I know it's not your fault, but when you all do contracts, I mean, do you all have like, I don't know if it's the right terminology or right word, is fines if they don't complete at a certain date? Because it's so strange. You know, you go to San Antonio and the other areas, and it takes like 3 months for them to build an overpass, and it takes like 5 years for them to do it here.
Yeah, you know,
Very unfortunate.
I heard that comment the other day, and I'm going to say this with a straight face. I want to see where they're building overpasses in 3 months, because I've never seen that anywhere. If you all can give me examples, we need to talk to them, because.
By 281
okay.
north of San Antonio, if you like to do that, they're there, and everywhere else, and they work 24 hours. You know, I see them with the spotlights at night. I'm in San Antonio all the time.
Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely look into that. So obviously, right now, if you look at the contractor that we have on I-69 and I-35, that contract is ahead of schedule. That contractor is a large company out of Spain. They brought a lot of resource, a lot of materials, and that contractor is going really fast. Now, a lot of times what happens too is the traffic, right? You look at a lot of areas don't have the type of tractor-trailer traffic that we have. So a lot of times the way that we have to plan our traffic control, I'll say this here, the utmost and the most important thing on any of our construction projects is the safety of the traveling public. So a lot of times we have to account for that and do multiple phases. I will say one of the benefits of that expansion project for I-69 is we're buying almost 250 foot of right-of-way along the whole corridor. So the first phase is going to be work that's on a uninhabited, right, undeveloped land, so that's going to be not inconvenience to anyone. So once that gets constructed, we'll move all the traffic on existing Loop 20 onto there to help ease that burden on the traveling public. So it is a challenge, of course. We're always looking at means and methods of how to construct our projects as quickly but as safely as possible. One of the advantages that I will give you, probably that San Antonio may have more than us, sometimes when you look at the sheer volume of projects that they're letting, that sometimes may attract larger contractors that may have other means and methods to construct.
Look like a pretty large amount of.
So this is going to be
killing the message.
No, you're right.
But
these
this
are going to
is
be
like
great
a
projects.
large amount of projects,
Yeah.
and I've seen this presentation, which is really impressive, and thank you for, presenting it today for others who haven't seen it. But it's just frustrating because things are not happening immediately, and those dates, you look at the dates, but realistically, and of course, and now we have the problem with materials and labor,
Right.
all those things that come into place. You look at the dates, just like, well.
Yeah, they can never, believe me, we're the same, but they can never get here fast enough, right? And then one of the things to acknowledge also is that once construction starts, stuff is going to get a little bit worse, right? As far as inconvenience for traveling public during construction. But the point that I want to message or send home is that we are on the right track. These are funded projects. These are not wish lists. These are not what ifs. These are projects that are funded. Plans are completed. Environmental is finished. Utilities are relocated. Right of ways being purchased. So we're in the right track. That's kind of the message I want to try to stay on. So moving forward here, I know that we're running a little over time. Again, obviously, the other talked about the 8 direct connectors in the future. The other remaining 2 are funded at $35 million, which will be north and south I-35 to East 59. And then a mile marker 18 on I-35 currently, where our tourist bureau is, where you have to go underneath the railroad bridge. We will be filling that underpass. We will be moving that bridge about a mile to the northwest. So you will now go over the bridge instead of under. And we're also going to be reconfiguring the way IH-35 and US 83 connect and building a direct connector that will take you from IH-35 northbound to US 83 northbound as well. So you will not have to get off anymore at an intersection and get off to do that maneuver. That project is obviously very important also. I showed you earlier about that being section of 83 being the future I-27 corridor. So that's going to be another critical intersection there for the city of Laredo as well.
You said that you're gonna move that bridge. What's the logic behind that, taking into consideration? I know that we're growing, but it just seems like it's just double work. And is UP helping fund some of this project or not?
So that project, if you look at it right now, it hasn't gotten hit quite a few times. It is in a vertical curve and a horizontal curve, which poses, is not ideal anymore with the new design speeds and requirements that the federal government requires us to have. So part of that project is to upgrade that and to make it safer for the future. So that's the purpose of that project. And to fix that intersection so we have more mobility where those two interstates are going to meet, I-27 and I-35 in the future.
Well, it seems like the Killam has more priority. It's a lot closer, man. I mean, we're working out there, so just
Yeah.
the thought process, man.
So if you look at also 1472, obviously is a very important corridor. We're all familiar with the amount of traffic that's on there. TxDOT has been looking at opportunities on how to improve the wait times there. So we're looking at increasing mobility and safety along that area. We do have a project plan from Fasken Boulevard to Pan America that's going to improve the movement. The last report that I got, I actually just got it yesterday, is looking like southbound 1472 from, and I don't think Ms. Perez has heard this yet. We're working on finalizing a presentation we're going to give to present to the city. But as far as the numbers that I already heard, and I saw in the report, it's going to decrease the travel time from Pan American down to Fasken from 26 minutes down to 15 minutes. So that is the total travel time. And again, those are technical terms, right, when you're looking at the total wait time at a lot of these areas. But again, the main emphasis of this project is to create more mobility on 1472 and decrease wait times.
For the record, 1472 Mines Road. Right?
Yes, 1472 Mines Road, yes.
Ito, are you touching the turnaround lanes for Killam?
Let me see, how do I go back? Which ones exactly?
The turnaround,
Yeah, so if you look at you're talking about the turning, the right turn lanes?
so they can hear that.
Yeah, so if you look at the right turn lanes, there's actually a project that's under construction right now that is adding an additional right turn lane onto Killam Boulevard. So if you're heading north on 1472 Mines Road, taking a right into Killam, we're building a brand new free designated right turn lane all the way from Fasken all the way to Killam. And we partnered with the RMA, and we're also helping them construct a right turn lane from Killam heading westbound onto Mines Road northbound as well. So
Which is
that'll
all
be
dirt right now.
That's correct.
But why is it dirt?
Excuse me?
Why has it taken so long?
Why is it taking so long? So that project, obviously, if you look at it, there is modifications that were having to be done to the traffic signals in that area. Those of you that are involved in construction have known that there's been a shortage in steel, right, and delay times. So that was the main reason that was holding up the contract in that area. But that project is underway, and I was told that material should be here already within the next month. So that construction should be commencing here shortly already.
And they ordered those poles?
Yeah, they ordered those poles about 8-9 months ago. So, and they're barely getting them, yeah. So,
That's big white.
Yeah.
Shortage.
one of the main OZ connectors that we talked about, as someone mentioned, I think by SCU earlier, you look at the east to west connection of Charles-Ruthinger. That was a project that the city and the county had originally had under their jurisdiction. TxDOT went ahead and looked at it, and obviously being that it's so important to 1472-935, we went ahead and took it over. We will be designing the plans, we'll be letting it, and once the city acquires a right-of-way along that corridor, we will actually be doing a swap with some currently state-owned property, roadways, to the city, and we will be bringing this heavyweight corridor onto our system. That means we'll be constructing it, we'll be maintaining it. It's gonna be built 100% concrete, heavyweight corridor. What we're building is just gonna be the outside lanes, so you're gonna have just a frontage road here on the outside and on this outside. That is what, currently we have an estimate of $51 million, and it's planned to go to letting in August of 2023. Obviously in the future, once it's required and once we have the funding available, we'll come back and we'll build the main lanes in the middle. But the good part about that is we will already have the full right-of-way footprint purchased, and we'll just have to come back and build the main lanes in the middle. So.
But those access roads are gonna be cement also?
All the concrete, yes, those frontages are gonna be concrete also, yes.
So that road hasn't been really solidified with the owners yet, or have they already been taken?
That road, the property has not been formally acquired by the city of Laredo. The city of Laredo is currently, under talks to acquire that right away from the property. But this project has been in, obviously, situated for a while, so the city's handling that. TechStar currently right now is just handling the plans, completing the plans, the funding is there. Once the city acquires the right away, from the property owners, then TechStar will do a swap with the city of Laredo.
So that date may not even be a realistic date if the city doesn't have it.
What we've been told, again, and we get updates at every city council meeting, is that they're on schedule to complete that.
And it's built for overweight.
It's gonna be an overweight quarter, yes. Yeah. So the next project that we have, obviously, just real quick, again, we're talking about, these are unfunded and under development. These are projects that we don't have money for, but we know that eventually we're gonna have a need for. So TechStat is taking a proactive approach to design them and get them ready, so when funding becomes available, we can have them ready to let. So IH-35 and US 59, there's that one pending direct connector that doesn't have funds. That'll close and finish up all 8. That's 25 million. Obviously, IH-35 carriers and the 3X overpass, we're gonna be widening both of those overpasses at $45 million. So we're already working on plans for that. And then we're looking at expanding and widening I-35 from mile marker 20 to 30 to 6 lanes. That's part of the initiative that I spoke about taking 6 lanes throughout the whole entire state, and that's another $70 million there. And then obviously, certainly not least, but another project that's very important to the area is Vallecillo Road, a project that's currently being developed by the Webb County, by the RMA. It's currently partially funded at $17.5 million. So there's a little bit of a gap there, the $14 million gap. And that is the money that the RMA and the city of Laredo, Webb County is asking from the Transportation Commission to request those Cat 12 funds that I spoke about earlier to try to get that fully funded.
And the Killam
And the Killam's, correct.
are also putting money.
And that section, what it's gonna be a little bit different than what Vallecillo is, right? Vallecillo was a divided highway controlled access. This is gonna be a five lane section, I believe 120 foot, 50 foot right of way is what it's gonna be, that road.
Chairman, could I make some comments?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Thank you, Tito, and thank you for the presentation that you gave last week and the members of the committee that were able to come. We had a little bit more time and we had some healthy dialogue. And I'd like to suggest, in addition to all the funded projects that need to be on schedule and provide that mobility and infrastructure, that the Vallecillo Road unfunded portion should probably be high on our radar for lobbying and advocacy and support letters, and us come together as a community, public, private. It's because it's so important to have that outlet on Mines, between Mines and 35. And could you share for a minute what you shared last week about the possibility of the Category 12 funding to fill that gap?
As far as how the process works?
Well, I don't want to put words in your mouth,
Right.
but what I understood last week is that we may get some good news in August that the Category 12 money could fully fund the remaining portion of the Vallecillo.
Yeah, so again, from that part, obviously, those decisions are made by the Transportation Commission. Currently did that decision. We're hoping to have that by August. I guess really with TechStat locally, we don't really have an impression of whether that money is going to be. So I apologize, Mr. Lincoln, if we gave a false impression on that. I think what we're looking at, and what I would like to point out, is that, as I mentioned earlier, we were at the Transportation Commission about a month and a half ago. Someone mentioned earlier, Mr. Puig, I think you mentioned about the coordination, and you mentioned about the population coming from Mexico. So there is a border trade master plan that we're heavily involved in. There is a border trade task force that we're heavily involved in. And that is a coordination that we're doing with the Mexican side as well to tell our story, the unique story that we have here in Laredo, so that it gets to the eyes and the ears of the people that are ultimately making the decision and deciding on that funding category. So if you haven't seen those or haven't been a part of those, I invite you all to look up those reports. There's a lot of information. I think one of the reports is about 1,000 pages long. Yeah. So there's a lot of, Mr. Richard's probably seen it, it's a lot of good information in there. And that's the kind of, if you look at Jerry Schwebel, I mentioned his name because he's a very great advocate for the city of Laredo. he told me the other day he carries that around with him everywhere he goes. I think he has it in his trunk.
He does.
So yeah, so you've seen it. So again, those are the coordination efforts we're doing. But to go back to your question, yeah, we put it up for funding. That Viacia Road, it was one of our top candidates, obviously, because that was the wishes and the direction that the MPO and the RMA gave. So that was submitted for competition, and we are waiting to hear back final word in August whether or not it's going to get funded or not.
Yeah, so we should get with our state representatives, our congressmen, collectively with the city, the county, our trade groups, the chambers, the alphas, the real license just customs brokers, and come together and really push for that. I think a lot of good stuff here, but I think we would really like to see that funding gap closed and get that outlet that we all need. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Tito, very much for that great information. Go
Right.
ahead.
I'd like to drive you back to the import lot, the World Trade import lot. And the exit, the first exit, there was only supposed to be a right turn. I mean, that said in every meeting that I see TxDOT. It was part of a study that was done on mobility. And it was very cheap to do because all you had to do is put a sign that it was only a right turn when you exit the first exit coming out of the import lot of the World Trade Bridge. And you could only make a right. The other one, you had to use the super highway, the speedway, what do you call that? That
All right, connected,
You gotta
huh?
go.
it has its name, and it's very expensive as well. That I-69 that you're doing.
Mm.
What is it called? Racetrack? What do you call it?
When you're leaving Wall Street Bridge,
When you're leaving the Orchard Bridge, heading east,
35,
heading west,
35.
heading east, yes,
Heading to 35.
okay?
It's called a racetrack. What do you all call it?
Interstate?
The spaghetti wall.
Oh, I think he's,
It has a
he's
name.
thinking that addition you added to the top where you speed out, he's saying that they call that a racetrack or some
Are you talking about an acceleration lane, maybe?
acceleration.
It has a very special, unique name.
Okay.
Well, that one was built for that, so the trainers can go all the way to 35, make a U-turn and come back to Mines Road, then make a right turn to head west.
Oh, you're talking about heading
yes.
out to 35, east of 35, and then using that turnaround that's at the interchange of I-35 and I-69 to come back to the west.
Instead of
Using
having that
using the queue.
immediate access, the exit to Mines Road, just to go straight. because
When they exit the first exit, and they all wanna make rights and left turns, it takes forever.
Right,
Okay, so it backs up all the traffic.
right.
But if only the traffic that has to turn to the right can only exit, that would make it a fewer, and so it wouldn't congest that area.
Right, so the project that I spoke about earlier, and I didn't go into detail on it, but the project, that Super Street project on 1472 is also going to reconfigure the turning movements there at 1472 and I-69. So all that traffic underneath there is gonna get moved through there a lot more efficiently
But
through
in
there.
the meantime, can you do
so-
something about maybe for a couple of months, or I don't know, I mean, just to try something different, to see how it works? I mean,
I guess is your concern, guys, with the backing up, I guess that,
When that red
People
light
have-
gets there,
yeah, it's
there's a
stacked,
buildup
stacking.
on there, so it just creates a
It's
lot
On
of
high
traffic.
traffic times,
Yeah.
and in a minute, you got, 20, 30 trailers or
okay.
something like that.
Yeah, we can look into that, we can have our traffic guys look into that, the timing. I know that the city and Texas had gone through a traffic signalization project to try to sync up all the lights, but again, how do you sometimes sync up when you have 20,000, trucks a day? But we'll look at it, we can go back and look at it to see what we can possibly do there to have some short range or improvements in that area before the project comes in.
I think Mr. Milky also has the same.
Yeah, I
concern.
think what he wanted to look at was, is trying to utilize that maneuver, that U-turn maneuver down at the interchange of 35 and I-69. So,
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Gonzalez, for your time and your great presentation, great projects, and if, like Gene said, if we could do anything to help this committee, and of course, we all belong to different associations and mostly trade associations, we can do anything to help, and we're on the same page and trying to make best for our trade community.
yeah, we invite any of you at any given time. I mean, not only, it doesn't have to be through here. If any of you want to come by and meet and talk, text us. Our door's always open. We always want to hear from our stakeholders and engage with that. I mean, obviously, we're part of the community. You're part of the community, and I always tell people, and I know on this note, the only way we're going to plan for the future is by doing it together, right? So that the more join we have, the more unified we are, the better we can plan for the future.
We got
So-
great summer internship programs, so
Yes,
send your
yes,
kids out
yes,
there to
I got-
work.
And the last thing, thank you for the 338. I mean, they did the rumbles in the wide lanes. It's a beautiful road. Thank you
Yes,
so
that
much.
3038, so if you are familiar with what Mr. Dominguez is talking about, takes on invested money to go ahead and get the weight restriction off of Las Tiendas from 3038 so that trucks could start to use it. So we invested money knowing that in the future, I took that side of this project because I was condensed for time. We're actually going to widen that and make that a divided section in the future because we know that that's going to be a major connectivity to 255, and we understand the future growth that's going to have along there. But we invested the money now because we wanted to have some intermediate or some relief at the time or right now. So that is something that we did.
Future means 2 years, 3 years? How many?
That expansion is probably out in the more 10-year range at the time.
Okay.
Tito, has this kind of presentation been given to the Webb County Commissioners Court also? Like, for instance, Las Tiendas Road, that's in Webb County though,
Correct.
right?
So we've given this presentation already at Laredo Development Corporation. We've given it to the Chamber of Commerce. We've given it to a couple Rotary clubs. I don't believe we've given it yet to the commissioners, Webb County Commissioner or City Council. But I mean, we're always open. I mean, we know we're going to get the tough questions, but that's what we're here for, right?
Yes,
It's not easy, but at the end of the day, that's our job. So,
Thank
so yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Tito.
Okay, we are on item number 3, update on World Trade Bridge expansion project, half lane relocation project, and weighing motion project, and any other matters. And some there too. Item number 3. That's right. And for the record, Mr. Arturo Dominguez did walk in. I'll put him as present. Thank you. Cost you $5.
Mr. Milky, Mr. King, Mr. Randolph, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, committee members and staff members. My name is Sid Milky. I am the primary project manager for Structural Engineering Associates, and we are the consultants for the city of Laredo for the World Trade Bridge expansion project. We're also the consultants for the Fast Lane project and the Wind project. So I don't know if you can see my screen right now.
Yes.
Do you have a copy? Do you see it now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. This is a presentation that we made originally to the Mexican Department of State, the SRE, and the State of Tamaulipas Department of Public Works and other agencies back on April the 7th of this year. And that's probably what your cover sheet of your hard copy handout showed. I did update this this particular cover sheet on the presentation and the differences that I sent to Ms. Yvette along the older copy that did not have this cover sheet updated. But this is a combination of what we presented to that group as we're coordinating the expansion of the World Trade Bridge, and also what events that have occurred since that time. So moving forward, obviously you're all familiar with the World Trade Bridge today. Many days you'll see that trucks are backed up on both directions. You can see in this slide, this is a little older slide, but trucks get both ways. This is going into Mexico, this is coming into the United States. And then you can see the primaries stack up at the primaries there. So the whole purpose of the World Trade Bridge expansion project is to complement many things that are ongoing. You heard Mr. Tito Gonzalez from TxDOT talk about taking the trucks beyond the World Trade Bridge, beyond the port of entry. Well, these projects that I'm going to talk about help get the traffic through the port. In the beginning, we talked with the Mexican authorities about the need and purpose for the World Trade Bridge. The U.S. side of the World Trade Bridge is, of course, owned by the city of Laredo. The Mexican side of the World Trade Bridge is actually owned by the U.S. Mexican federal government, but it's under operation by the original concessionaire, who is the state of Tamaulipas. World Trade Bridge is the most important commercial crossing on the U.S.-Mexican border. Trade is growing rapidly. Private sector is continuing to invest heavily in the area north of the World Trade Bridge. Federal, state, and local governments are investing heavily in port of entry and transportation infrastructure projects. We saw some of those earlier. And this expansion project is needed to assist in reducing wait times and to increase throughput at the port of entry to meet the increased demand that's going to happen. We know it's going to happen. The demand has already increased dramatically since the bridge was opened back in 1995. Some statistics. This is from the Border Trade Master Plan that was prepared and published in 2021 by TxDOT. I think Joe mentioned this particular report. In 2019, we had about 2 million trucks come through World Trade Bridge. The wait times averaged back then 30 minutes. The 90 percentile wait time, which was the upper end of the wait times, was 53 minutes. TxDOT's projecting that we're going to over double the throughput at the port in 2050. So 5.1 million trucks are going to come through the port. The wait times, if nothing else happens, nothing else is done to improve the throughput or the bridge or anything beyond even port of entry, going to rise to 527 minutes for standard days and standard times, and up to 930 minutes for the 90 percentile wait time. This is an increase of 255% in volume only, and over 1,600% in wait time. So we need to get working now to make sure we don't achieve these in actuality. We want to make sure things work better. One of the things that's going to help assist the throughput at the World Trade Bridge is the fast lane relocation project. And what you see here is a drone shot from the, I think this is about a month old, not quite a month old, photo of the fast lane project. Just briefly, you can see the existing bridge here. There are 3 lanes lined up over here. These are 3 primary booths. There is a 4th primary booth. This is actually lane number 1. What you can't see in the distance there is the Z portal, which is the NII piece of equipment that inspects empty trucks. So we'll have 4 primary lanes coming directly off the existing bridge. These are all certified trucks, CTPAT certified, are fast trucks. So right now, they'll be able to come through, right through the port. We're anticipating, according to CBP, maybe 2 to 4 minutes of actual primary inspection here, or lane number 1, and then they'll be allowed to go straight through. And what's behind me is I-69W. There will be no traffic through the fast lane that will have to go through the regular port of entry after this project is open. Right now we're still on target for the end of July this year to open up this project. And volume-wise, this fast lane should take a maximum of about 2,500 trucks a day out of the mix of the existing port. So that's up to 25% of the current capacity or current volume of traffic in the port. So if you take that number, and if it does materialize, we think that once the trade sees the value of fast lane, which they're already seeing, but once they start seeing the fast throughputs through this new facility, they'll start getting on board with the CTPAT process and shifting more trucks into the fast program. Okay, what that does though is that it takes those trucks out of this port, and it allows more trucks, more commercial non-CTPAT certified trucks to be processed in the same day. So that potentially is increasing throughput in the port a significant amount. Other projects that are ongoing, we talked about this is a little right-hand curve coming out of the existing exit booths that are there today. This has been a topic of discussion between ourselves, the city of Laredo, and the Mexican counterparts for many, many years. In reality, this widening section, most of it's being done by TxDOT now as they're widening I-69W as this exits the port. Also, in the process is existing lanes weighing motion scales. We're working directly with the city of Laredo and their technical consultant, which is Transcore. Transcore has our 99% complete construction plans. They're reviewing them now to make sure it works well with their equipment. And we are planning to try to construct this facility this summer as well. The thing that may cause us a little problem is this is a steel overhead sign bridge here, and there's also some computer hardware that needs to be acquired by Transcore, and as you're all aware, some of that stuff is hard to get these days, so we're working to get this moving forward. This ties into some of the projects that Mr. Tito Rodriguez talked about already. The widening of I-69W. We'll be pushing about 2,000 trucks a day through the fast lane that'll hit this widened section. They'll be finishing this widening about the same time we're finishing the fast lane, so they're all going to tie together pretty well. Other projects, I'm going to gloss through this because Mr. Rodriguez kind of went through them already. The direct connectors at I-35 and I-69. ISCO, this is the Mines Road, I-69W interchange, and they are, TxDOT is working on an upgrade of that interchange to hopefully, at the last thing he was talking about is trying to improve the throughput in this intersection. And of course, Achara Rutherford Parkway and ISCO Road are very important projects here. In addition to all these things that are already in the pipeline, the next logical step to complement enhancements of port of entry, the fast lane, the TxDOT improvements, and the expansion of the other transportation corridors on both sides of the border. And what I haven't shown you is they've improved the roadway into the Mexican side of the World Trade Bridge from Highway 2 a couple of years ago, and they're making improvements inside the port of entry as we speak. But the next logical step is the expansion of the World Trade Bridge. And this was kind of a sales slide, if you will, when we met with the SRA and the state of Tamaulipas. So this is the scope of the project as we have submitted it to the federal government. The existing World Trade Bridge is right here. Right now it's 8 lanes, 4 in each direction. Right now traffic coming into the United States inbound, travel across this road, and we go from 4 lanes wide, kind of narrows down to 3, sometimes 2, and then go to 15 primaries here. So this is a choke point that we're going to eliminate as part of this project. The other thought that we've had and that we're proposing is to take the traffic now that's coming inbound and send them straight up from the toll plaza here on the Mexican side, send them straight into the primaries. So our proposal is for 8 lanes on the new bridge, cutting right off right here at the beginning of at the end of the port of entry on the Mexican side and heading directly into the primary lanes on the U.S. side. The other thing that we encountered as we were negotiating with our Mexican counterparts was that they thought that we needed more capacity coming into Mexico as well. So we're also proposing to build 2 more lanes that will be southbound in Mexico on this side of the existing bridge and the existing roadway. Both of these components are part of our proposal that we submitted to the federal government recently.
Quick question.
Lane finance that we were talking about in the future. So we're planning on having 8 full lanes coming directly into the primary of the port of entry on the U.S. side.
Can you
There's
repeat
2
the question?
lanes
Yeah.
that
Mr.
are,
Milkey. Mr. Milkey, we've got a question
Yes.
on the floor. If we can hold off just a second. Mr.
Sure, go ahead, please.
Middle of the chat, quick, on the northbound, is it, the whole bridge gonna convert to southbound and the new part is gonna be northbound? Or is it gonna be, the red part is additional and the current bridge will still handle north and southbound traffic?
I think it's on the next
Okay.
slide. It's on the
I
next
think
slide.
I heard the question, and that's where we're going to the lane assignment. The new bridge that's here, the 8 lanes of the new bridge will be completely northbound or inbound. The existing bridge will be converted to primarily southbound, but we're going to retain the 2 southern lanes that will go directly into the fast facility. So the fast traffic right now, there's a dedicated lane right here in the middle of the bridge And we're gonna push it over, but maintain two now. We're gonna create two fast lanes, take that traffic straight through the fast facility and down on I-69W. And what that will remain will be 6 lanes of the original bridge, plus 2 more lanes of the new bridge that will be southbound into Mexico. So what we'll end up with is a total of 10 lanes coming northbound, 8 here and 2 on the old bridge, and 8 lanes going southbound into Mexico. That's the end result of the project that we have scoped right now. Did that answer the question?
Yes, sir, it did, thank you, and it was right there, I didn't read it. Thank you.
You're welcome, you're welcome. So that's where the lane assignments, that's what we're looking at right now. We have proposed this, as I mentioned, this has been proposed to our counterparts in Mexico. They are in verbal agreement with us right now. We think there's a lot of things that can occur. And I may back up to this slide in a minute, but I want to talk about some of the progress that we've encountered, that we've done so far on this project. Many of you remember back on September the 16th, the City Council made a motion to approve the expansion project and move forward with the presidential permitting for it. On September the 25th, I was there in Laredo, and Mayor Sines and Governor de Vaca had a meeting and a press conference. Congressman Cuellar was also there, and that's when the mutual agreement was made to go forward with the City of Laredo being the U.S. sponsor and the state of Tamaulipas being the Mexican sponsor and the concessionaire to move forward with the expansion of the World Trade Bridge. On February 8th of this year, we got $1 million of federal funding assigned to this project for several reasons. One of them is that the federal government, under the previous administration, revised the rules for presidential permitting, and there was a change in the way environmental clearances were reviewed and issued. In our discussions with the Federal Highway Administration, that agency volunteered to be the shepherd, if you will, or be the lead federal agency for environmental clearance, but there has to be some federal funding in the project in order for them to be active in that project. And the same thing goes for TxDOT. So this $1 million that is appropriated by the MPO for this project, and right now we've got to include it in the MPO, the tip for the MPO, it got approved at the state level, and now it's at the federal level for final approval. But what that will allow us to do is to move forward with the environmental clearance process very rapidly and not have to, and we will work with TxDOT and FSWA for that environmental clearance process. So that's the need for that $1 million. We also created and had our first meeting with what we call our Interagency Working Group, and that is a coordinated effort between Federal Highway Administration, FHWA, the General Services Administration, GSA, of course CBP, and TxDOT is also a member, as well as the City of Laredo and our consulting firm. So we brought this group together. We meet every month. The main thing is to keep all of our stakeholders, these are our primary U.S. stakeholders, and we want to keep them all advised as to the progress of the project as we're moving forward. And hopefully tonight's meeting and my presentation will help keep the Port of Entry Advisory Committee informed as well. As you know, on April the 25th of this year, just a couple of weeks ago, Mayor Sines and Governor de Vaca met at the World Trade Bridge, and they formally signed a memorandum of agreement which committed the City of Laredo as a sponsor on the U.S. side and the state of Tamaulipas as a sponsor on the Mexican side. With everything fully together, with the coordination with Mexico going well, with the commitment of the governor of Tamaulipas and the state of Tamaulipas, we were able to finish up our presidential permit application. Our original target had been April 1st, but it's been difficult to get Mexico to come to the table to talk with us early this year. That has been very successful in getting that done with the city. The city and ourselves have been coordinating with the state of Tamaulipas and the federal government agencies on the Mexican side. And so with everything pointing toward everybody saying we need this bridge, it has to move forward, we submitted our presidential permit application to the Department of State on April 29th. When I say I, the City of Laredo's presidential permit application to the Department of State on April 29th, which is Friday, a little over 2 weeks ago. What we're looking at moving forward, we did submit the presidential permit application. While we don't have control of what happens during this review process, we're hoping that we may get a favorable opinion from the White House by October of this calendar year. The previous administration, as I mentioned, had changed the rules for reviewing presidential permits for crossings on the southern and northern border, and they basically took the review process, not so much took the review process, but took the authority for granting permits back to the White House level. So we've made the submittal, and the Department of State is reviewing initially that submittal, and we're hoping to find out soon if they submitted it to the White House for consideration. And we also know that it will be submitted to the various major stakeholders as well, such as the Department of State for Governmental Affairs, and Mexican Coordination, CBP, will be another agency that it will be submitted to and requested that for them to give their opinion. GSA will be another agency, Federal Highways will be another agency, likely IDWC will be another agency as well, that hopefully the White House will now, because we've done some early on coordination with them, they'll receive favorable reports, and the White House will give us our presidential permit for this project later this year. We also intend to begin the environmental assessment process, and as I mentioned, the money that enables this to occur is right now being reviewed by the federal level at FHWA as the Texas STIP, or the Statewide Transportation Improvement Program. So once that's done, we believe it will happen in June, possibly July. We plan to begin our coordination with TxDOT as our overseer and Federal Highway Administration and the ultimate issuer of the FONSI, and the city has under our contract an environmental firm to begin preparing the modules that are needed for this environmental assessment on the project. We're proposing to follow the TxDOT model that's out there today. It's well known. It's very straightforward process. And FHWA today works directly with TxDOT on these throughout the state of Texas on many of the projects that you already heard about. So we think using that process will make things move as fast as possible through the environmental clearance on this project. Once we receive the FONSI for the project, we can apply for the Coast Guard permit, the final IBWC permit, and an Army Corps of Engineers permit. We're anticipating possibly in October of 2024 for those being issued. Backing up a little bit, we're looking at possibly June of 2024 for having the FONSI issued again. That's going to depend on getting the STIP approved and moving forward after that. We hope to begin construction in December of 2024. This project should take about 12 months. Both phases should take about 12 months to complete. When I say both phases, I'm going to skip forward a minute. Yeah, okay, in just a second. And then we hope to have the bridges open in 2026. And now, before I really open the questions, I wanted to mention a couple of quick things. One of them, as we mentioned, this will all be northbound lanes, 8 northbound lanes. When we say we're adding 2 lanes here, we're not really adding another bridge. We plan to connect these 2 new lanes to this existing bridge in the same manner that TxDOT widens their bridge today, so we can get the best price from all the contractors out there. As I mentioned earlier, this piece of roadway now that's in construction, it will not be used. It will be left in place, but it will not be used. So we won't have 4 lanes trying to move down into 2 or 3 lanes and then again another right-hand turn. We'll have all 8 lanes going straight into the 15 primaries on the main port of entry, and we'll have 2 lanes coming straight up into 4 lanes for the new FAST facility, and we will also have a total of 8 lanes coming southbound into the Mexican port of entry as well. So we believe a combination of widening the bridge, the fast lane project, improvements that are ongoing and are improved, and plans to be made in the Mexican port of entry will help speed the throughput or increase the throughput through this whole port of entry area, the bridge and the port of entry, getting them through there and pushing them out onto the highway, giving them TxDOT on our side, causing more problems with TxDOT. We've got a lot of funding, as Mr. Rodriguez mentioned. Laredo has received a lot of funding in the last 4 to 5 years. A lot of activity. I've been working in Laredo since 1993, and this is the biggest and the best improvements to the highway system that I've seen in many, many years. So, we are working closely with CBP. That's one of the reasons we're hoping that this direct approach with the bridge will allow them to categorize the trucks coming from Mexico and maybe separate them. Agriculture can be in a couple of lanes, and non-agriculture can be in a couple of lanes, and other high-risk vehicles can be in other lanes, and they can we can stop the weaving and congestion here. There's enough space for CBP to potentially install some more non-invasive inspection equipment in advance of the primary, which is one of their goals right now. So we stayed in touch with our main stakeholders as we've developed this scope of work, and we think it's going to work for the port of entry and also increase the throughput through the port of entry going both directions. So at this point, definitely open up the floor to any questions that you may have.
Mr. Lindgren?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is more of a question for us, the experts in the room. For those of you that work in the industry day in and day out, do we know if the CBP has reinstated the certifications for TPAT?
Not
Yes.
particular in visits.
Only for, not for new ones, only for
Recertification.
recertification, and they can do them
Virtually.
face, virtually.
Okay. I mean, this is great. We need to do this. We approved this as an advisory committee. City council went ahead and did it, and then it's.
I have 2 questions.
But for CBP, maybe we need to bring CBP here and ask them when they're gonna.
Well, it's not CBP, it's not locally, CTPAT is not run by, it's not controlled or managed by CBP that you and me know. It's a different division up from Washington that handles that. And they, with the talks that we've had with Mr. Flores and his team, they have also had support when they reach out to the CTPAT teams. They've also said, hey, we need guys continue, a lot of carriers in Mexico still need being certified. They're trying to push as well as much as they can, but it's not on them. It's not Albert Flores' team.
Because wouldn't it be a shame if we get the new bridge span all put in place and all the fast lane capability, but.
Oh, there's plenty of fast lane users anyway.
I've heard it's also a security issue. They don't want to go down there.
Yeah.
That's the problem. They don't want to unless security improves, and it's not going to improve anytime soon.
Mr. Dominguez?
I have 2 questions, Mr. Milky. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay. Will Council Member Perez do the ribbon cutting for the fast lanes in July of this year? That's the target date.
Yes, I asked the contractor again today, earlier this week, and they're still saying that we're on track for the end of July to cut the ribbon.
Great.
I will say this, that the partnership, this project, the fast lane is a partnership project between, some of the DAP program, the donation acceptance program, but it's a partnership between GSA, CPP, and the primary sponsor being the city of Laredo. There are some computer components that we've been told they're on the way to Laredo that need to be installed in the booths right in here. We already have the big yellow RPM panels. They're stored back over here, so we're hoping everything's going to move forward per plan. So that's our plan, to have the ribbon cutting into July, and Councilman Pettis can certainly be there to cut the ribbon.
All right. The other question is a permit between a new bridge and this expansion. What's the difference in timeframes?
As far as the permitting is concerned,
Or the actual, getting approval Yes.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think the question was as far as timing for the permitting of this project.
No.
Meaning this bridge and also this other bridge here.
No, the difference between,
Permitting time,
Mr. Milky,
is that a correct question?
no, the difference between a new bridge and this, this expansion.
An amendment.
Is there a difference in time frame as to approval?
From my experience, yes, there is a difference in the time frame. This bridge here, the existing bridge has an existing permit that was issued, I believe, in 1995 or 94, and it's been amended once or twice. This whole area has been studied extensively, so that when we do our environmental clearance, we are, in essence, we're doing what we need to do to comply with NEPA, but we don't anticipate finding anything new here. All of this has been studied and excavated and dug out back when the original port of entry was built in 1997, 98 time. So, long story short, permitting for this project should be much faster than permitting for a brand new international bridge. If you will, envision that there's nothing here. There is a lot of things to be studied when there's nothing. Environmentally, there are big issues. The big issue right now that I'm hearing from CBP, from other projects I'm working on, is that for them, this is pretty much a piece of cake, if you will. This is not a big thought process for CBP. A new port of entry, I don't know how many employees are working here at World Trade Bridge today on the federal side for CBP, but there's a whole bunch. And if you're trying to get a permit for a new port of entry, all of those people, all of those federal employees that need to be employed have to be employed, and CBP has to look at that when they're reviewing the presidential permit application for the sponsor on the U.S. side. The same thing goes for the Mexican side as well. I mean, you have an investment and a time, you have to do studies, similar studies on the Mexican side. If there's nothing there, those studies take a little longer. There's also the issue of staffing. So my short answer is we believe, and we've seen the process for expanding an existing international bridge to be quite fast in comparison to what we've experienced in past years when we permitted. And I say we, the team that are working with me on this project, we've done several international bridges over the years. And the time it takes for a brand new international bridge is much longer.
Thank you, Mr. Miller, we got a question from JD?
Just a question as well. I know that we've had some projects on trying to get an amendment done for hazmat. Are you taking that into consideration as well, since we already have some infrastructure established on the old southbound bridge that you have mentioned down here for the new portion as well, or is that not being taken into consideration? Hazmat containment center.
I couldn't quite hear that question completely. Could you repeat that, please?
Taking into consideration that we previously had some projects where we tried to get an amendment to work with hazmat products. We have a hazmat containment center on the current bridge that we have now, and I think we're still working. Are you trying to work as well to include a hazmat crossing in this bridge as well, or is that not being taken into consideration?
did you take it?
Well,
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Milky.
okay. The hazmat facility on the U.S. side is right here. We've already got the containment facility. I say we, and pardon me, I've been working in Laredo for many years, and I've lived in Laredo off and on this project. So the city of Laredo has this facility here that is reachable from all sides of the port today. We've also designed a containment for this bridge, and it's in place today. All water that falls on this existing bridge is contained into a vault on this side and contained into a vault on this side. This same principle, it will be employed on the new bridge, so that we'll have a concrete vault here and a concrete vault here, and all the water that falls permitting for hazardous materials. I don't know the status. I think on the US side, it may already be permitted, but on the Mexican side, they didn't, I know they didn't build this in the port facility on the Mexican side. That's something that as we've discussed this project moving forward with our concessionaire on the Mexican side, is something that possibly we can push for. But the point being is, whatever we have done already, I say the city has already done for containment on the bridge, we'll continue with that process. The new bridge will be outfitted in the same way. So the answer is, short term, is we'll have everything in place that should allow for that permitting to be finalized, even if this bridge is, once this bridge is open as well. We're not doing anything that would constrict or restrict the use of hazmat through the port.
My question, I guess, I'm gonna repeat it in a different way. It seems like you're doing the containment area, but is the hazmat process being included in the permit process, in the permit itself, yes or no? No, it's not? Okay,
We
thank you.
did not include a special additional hazmat permitting request in this presidential permit application.
Thank you.
Because I think the city's already has, that request has already been made some years ago to the federal government, and I may be wrong, and I have to do some research. But I thought that the city of Laredo had already requested to allow hazardous materials to cross the bridge, and I'm not sure why. I think there is.
It's a lack
I
on the
may be
Mexican
wrong, but
side.
I think there's certain hazardous materials below a certain level of hazard already crossing.
No,
No.
it's a CBP thing, but it's a different,
If-
it's a
if-
different issue.
Committee members, if I may, Eva Limon for the record, sorry about my voice. We did receive the amendment to the presidential permit, which allows the less hazardous material to cross through World Trade. But the
Diplomatic.
Mexican side has not completed the off-site containment facility. Therefore, the diplomatic notes were never exchanged, or they have not been exchanged. So we do not have authorization. We have the amendment granted, but we do not have authorization to proceed in allowing the crossing of hazardous material to World Trade.
Thank you, Ms.
One
Mo.
question, what is less hazardous?
Explosive.
Considered what
Non-explosives,
you and, yeah.
they're
you- you codes.
non-explosives, non-radioactive, flammables. It's a certain category by, through the,
Let's say going from grade 1 to 2 and further on, they must go to the bridge?
yeah, I would need to check what
The
was
city
allowed.
would allow
through-
that, but CBP needs to approve that.
No, the
CBP is
Mexican
not
side,
approving it.
yeah.
Yeah, CBP at the end of the day. Okay,
Right.
thank you, Ms. Mo, for that.
Okay.
And then,
Okay. So in the last increment of the toll bridge, the monies we're gonna use for the fast lane, it was $10 million. But then they brought CBI monies from Loop 20 and they injected it into that. And so the tolls kept up. I mean, they didn't decrease the toll.
Right.
Is there any way we can get some money to give to Vallecillo? I mean,
that would have to be a decision made through the budget process, through, council or the city management,
I
but
mean, because, you all never use that money. I mean, we can use it elsewhere, especially where we need it the most.
Advise you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if they're talking about where we get money, we're trying to get money from everywhere. I don't think TxDOT is ever gonna put money in that road. It's too short of a road, it's too narrow, it's gonna be a city street, for sure. But,
what's up? Good,
but
good idea. No, there's a
Trying to
follow-up. I don't know
find money.
how do you follow up with that, with the city budget?
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for showing me this. Good question. Anybody else? So, thank you, Mr. Milky, for your presentation.
You're welcome, you're welcome.
Have a good day. And then, so we are,
Mr. Chairman, Kent Richard again for the record. We will now have our presentation from Clean Air Laredo Coalition.
perfect, thank you.
Give me a moment, please.
Yvette, question on this. I was looking on the agenda, you also made, reference to Way in Motion project. There's gonna be some funds involved in that. Taking into consideration, those funds will go back into the general fund, not for the Way in Motion, which should be working on, you know, overweight shipments and so forth. Is that money, can we use that kind of fund into, I know that we have to work on the budget, but where's that money gonna go to other than general fund, or how can we apply that funds to projects that we really need to work with?
80% of that money goes to tech stuff for those overweight roads.
Okay, what we do, currently do, right, is, if they're oversized, overweight, they obtain a permit, depending, revenue either gets deposited to traffic safety if they're going from, let's say, a warehouse to a warehouse. But if they utilize the bridge, if they're crossing the bridge, then that's when the bridge system recognizes the revenue. So part of it goes to bridge, part of it goes to general fund. So with the northbound overweight, they will have to obtain a permit, and it'll be within the same ordinance. Depending on the use, it'll either go to general fund through traffic safety or through the bridge.
I say it because the first few months, you're gonna have a flood of money coming in because there's
It
not
could
being
be,
waited.
unless they get a permit, or we'll find out if we do have a great volume of overweight northbound crossings.
Okay.
Thank you. And now we continue with the presentation for Clean Air Radio Coalition. I put it to the end, so that's fine, we could go ahead with the insufficient fees, that's pretty simple.
Good evening, committee members. Again, Yvette Limon for the record. We provide you an updated spreadsheet regarding the insufficient fund U-turns. As you can see on the April spreadsheet, World Trade Bridge, numbers have decreased, which that was the intent. We still have some U-turns, and they're paying the fee, but they have gone down. I guess from March it was like 0.26%, and it went down to April to 0.18%. You can see the number of U-turns done.
Yeah,
and we were at 500. Now we're at 370. So the number has gone down.
Yeah, so I did the math and compared March to April. There were 10% less crossings just because there's fewer days in the month, but 35% less U-turns. What day of April were the fees or fines implemented? Was it April 1st? Or
It was published in the paper April 1st, and it took effect immediately after.
Okay, so it was the full month.
The month of April, yeah. I think we did allow certain days for awareness, and now for sure letting the customers know that we are assessing the fine. So we did give them some days of awareness, and then we began to.
It'll really be interesting to see if the trend keeps
That's
going in the right direction.
One
that's the
account
plan.
had 15 U-turns last month, and there was just 2 accounts that had 5, so that just.
Yeah, it definitely made a difference there, and that's how, we're gonna have a number that's never gonna, the ones that actually forgot, you're never gonna get rid of those.
Right.
But then these, bad managed, bad accounting or
Right.
whatever, they're gonna start paying attention, so yeah, we just saw results complete right there. So,
We'll continue to
Great job
track
pushing
it
that
and
through.
provide you with the information.
thank you, great job pushing that through to council, and thank you for
Thank
council
you all for
approving
your
it.
support with this. I know it was tough. I know we beat it every month, but thank you all for seeing the need to assess a fine, because nothing was happening with just awareness and making the drivers aware that they had insufficient funds. But thank you for your support in this idea. That's kind of why we need you all here. And any other issues we have, we'll continue to work it through to continue having our port competitive and being the number one port and allowing traffic to flow. Time is money. I understand this industry, so thank you all for
Thank
your
you, Ms.
support.
You're
We'll
welcome.
continue
Good
to
job.
report
Thank
back.
you.
Ken and Yvette. Now, the last item on the agenda?
Hi, Vanessa Perez for the record. So I'm on this side today of the aisle. I'm here for the Clean Air Coalition, Clean Air Laredo Coalition. So I'm one of the co-founders of the Clean Air Laredo Coalition. Just here to give you all a little presentation. I'll make it quick because I know we're running on time. So let's kind of I'll run through the presentation. This is my first time going over the presentation, but I'm gonna try my best. So Midwest Sterilization Corporation, the reason why we're bringing it here is because it's set up in an area that, you know, could potentially, it does impact a lot of your businesses depending on where you're at.
I'd like to stop you real quick. Go ahead and make a motion, extend our meeting for 30 more minutes.
I may have to leave before that though, however, yeah, sure. If you want to
Second.
continue, that's fine.
I need a second.
Second? All in favor? Aye.
I will try to do this in 6 minutes. I know how it
You have
is.
my vote in next term.
So Midwest Sterilization address is 12010 General Milton Drive. So I don't know if any of you all are by there, but we had a meeting for the business industry. I didn't see too many of you all there, but I know Mr. Prida was there, and afterwards he kind of stood up and gave some comments, and he said, so I'm gonna kind of cut to that and then I'll go here, but he was like, well, I have 2 of my employees have cancer right now. And then afterwards he said, you know, actually I have 3 of my employees have cancer right now. And so he was kind of listening to the presentation, I guess, and then he felt compelled to bring that up to us. And when we had a town hall with the residents to inform them of this, we had similar feedback where it was like somebody would come up and say, well, you know, my son, he passed away from cancer, and they told us it was environmental. And, you know, it's difficult with cancer because it's hard to know where it started or how it was obtained or, you know, whatever. But these are just facts that I'm just going to present to you, you know, the facts, and you can decide from there your own conclusion on what you think. So the problems, Laredos are at a significant risk of developing cancer from ethylene oxide, which is a carcinogenic air toxin. Until recently, we didn't know about this incident. I was contacted by a reporter actually last year to let me know that they were doing this story, that they were going to be putting out this map, the ProPublica map that came out. It's interactive. You can put in your address and you can see what your exposure is to this chemical based on the amount that's being released and the amount that they claim is, you know, being put into the chamber, and then based on their scrubbers and everything, then what is left that comes out into the air that we're exposed to. But it's not monitored, there's nobody double checking, there's no verification on whether or not these numbers are accurate or not. It's just all self-reported. So apparently this has been going on with not just this company, but all commercial sterilizers that use ethylene oxide. And so we're here because of that. We didn't know, and now we do know. In December 2016, the EPA reclassified ethylene oxide as a human carcinogen. So before that, they didn't know if it could cause cancer, maybe, maybe not. But then in 2016, they went ahead and said, yes, for sure, it does cause cancer. It's not a debate on whether it does or doesn't. It just depends on the human body, individual, whether or not it's gonna cause cancer for each individual person, but it is a carcinogen. It's a class 1 carcinogen. It has no color, no odor. Just, you really cannot tell it's there. There's no way to know. It's flammable, you know, all the details about it. It's used to sterilize medical equipment in Laredo. And then it has a byproduct, which is antifreeze. And one of the unique characteristics about it is that it, you know, you can sterilize plastic, and the particle is so small that it penetrates almost anything. So that's why they use it, because it's not just for the, you know, stainless steel equipment, but it's also the plastics and everything, and they blast everything all together and it sterilizes the whole thing. You know, so it's good for for the medical industry to prevent, you know, infections and things like that, but it does have some side effect, you know, downsides to it for the communities that have these sterilizers in them, which is what we do in Laredo. It's mutagenic, so it changes the DNA in a cell, which is actually why it's our children come into play here, because since our children are still growing and their DNA's replicating, if they're exposed to this chemical, then it could cause their DNA to, you know, change and mutate, which increases their chance of, you know, cancers and other complications down the line. And so, you know, that's where we all got concerned, is that, you know, we all have children, and it's like we want to make sure that our children are protected, and if this is going on, we want to make sure that our children are not exposed to it. So ETO, ethylene oxide, is 60 times more toxic to children and 30 times more toxic to adults than what the EPA had previously thought. And this is from their, you know, research and everything that they've been doing. So the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, is looking at ethylene oxide. It's the most toxic of all the toxins that they regulate, and it contributes the majority of excess cancer risk that is created by the air pollution. So, facts. There's symptoms and effects. There's acute, which could be headaches, dizziness, memory loss, nausea, vomiting, weakness, numbness, all these short-term effects that, you know, for the reason why we wanted to bring this to the business community is that a lot of your employees work outside. And if you're in close proximity to this plant, and I'll get to that in a minute, but when this chemical goes out into the air, the area that's around it, the chance of cancer risk or the exposure is a lot higher. So if, you know, you might have employees that suffer from these type of things, just something to be aware of. Chronic, you know, then that's when you start to see the cancers over time. And so what we've learned about that is that it takes about 15 to 20 years for some cancers to start. So this plant has been around since 2006. So you're just now starting to see some people coming with the cancers. Long-term exposure, again, myeloma, leukemia, breast cancer, lymphoma. And emissions chart, so they self-report their emissions. At one point, at their heaviest, they were putting out 16,000 pounds. Now they're claiming to be down to about 1,000 or 2,000 pounds. But again, this is all self-reported. There's no monitoring. If you have an issue with the water, you call TCQ. They'll come and check it. Here, they don't check this and they don't verify. So this is kind of just. But even with these numbers, they are the plant that emits the most ethylene oxide from all the sterilizer plants in the United States. Like, as a small company that they are, they're the largest emitter of ethylene oxide. And because of that, they're classified differently than a bigger corporation would be, so they fall under different regulations by the EPA. So that's kind of an issue too. Again, that's what I explained. Second largest emitter. I'm sorry, I said first largest. I mistaken second. I'll move on. Okay, so Willowbrook, this is important here because one of the rebuttals you'll hear in the industry is that ethylene oxide can come from so many different sources. They've said they come from bananas, they come from traffic. A lot of their PR efforts have gone towards blaming your guys' industries, the trade industries, the trucks, stuff like that. Like, it's not us, it's because Laredo has all these trucks and all that stuff. So one of the coalition members, Ursula Tanwe, she was a co-founder of Stop Sterigenics, which is Willowbrook, Illinois, had a sterilizer that was only putting out like 1/4 of what ours is putting out here in Laredo. And so they actually went and purchased air monitors, which is kind of where I'm getting, like we're gonna need air monitors to verify. They went ahead and purchased air monitors, installed air monitors around their community to verify the emissions. And so you see like a line that says IEPA seal order. So that was the day that they were ordered to shut down. And to the left, you see all the data from their air monitors, and then to the right, you see the difference. Like the air monitors that they had, they left them and they were still monitoring, but you see the line almost flattened out. So, and they live in like a high traffic area outside of Chicago. There's a highway that runs right there. There's, you know, they have also traffic and trucks and diesel and everything. And once that sterilizer plant shut down, their air monitors practically went offline. So ethylene oxide does exist in other sources, right, that emit, but the amount of, and the reason why ProPublica and all these reporters and all this data was done in Laredo was specifically because of this one particular sterilization plant that emits these high levels of chemical into our community every day. Third in the US for highest cancer hazard from air pollution. These are all facts I can present to you, but I'm gonna kind of rush through it. ProPublica, again, they were targeting mostly the children. And the EPA sets their target for acceptable cancer risk at 1 in 1 million. Okay, so 1 for every 1 million people. In most of Laredo, the data shows that the cancer risk is 1 in 30,000 because of this plant. So it's not 1 per every 1 million people, it's 1 for every 30,000 people. And if you're in close proximity to the company, your cancer risk is 1 in 560 people. So it's significantly higher for the people that have to live and work in this area every day.
Who gave those numbers?
Excuse me?
What is the source of that number?
The source for this one is, I will get the source. I'll get the source. I don't see it here. It's here, ProPublica. This is the source. So you go in there, you put your address, and it'll tell you what your risk is. So if you put in the address for Midwest Sterilization, it has that red, and it tells you right there, highest risk, 1 in 560. So it's based off of this map that is what kind of brought all of our attention to what was going on. And they spent 2 or 3 years, 2-year analysis to get this map going. So it's all based on research. The area in red is the areas that are most affected. Then you have orange, and then you've got like lighter shades of yellow. But basically, our entire community is in some sort of elevated risk, just because of the amount, and then the wind, and all of that. So based on, I think they got this based on the size, based on the emission amount, and then, well, the chemical has to, you know, it flies around, so. Those are the risks from there. And all the schools in Laredo, 10 of them rank in the 1% for all schools in the United States for most air toxic hazardous air pollutants because of ethylene oxide. So our schools are actually being ranked based on exposure to this. It's like, again, it's 60 times more toxic to children. Source, Air Toxics at School Project, Political Economy Research Institute, which is the Perry of University of Massachusetts at Amherst. They put this study out. So they listed all the schools, and then you'll see like Moeller Elementary, Faskin, United Day, Kazin, Finley, George Washington Middle, basically all the schools on the west side on Mines Road, Troutman Middle, Elias Herrera Middle School, Malakoff, Mary Help of Christian, and then they just kind of rank lower and lower based on the distance, but all the schools are there. So those are the worst air toxic ranks in the country, which is pretty scary, I think. So here it has the schools that are at the top of that list. Moeller Elementary School, which is close by, there's the cancer risk for those children is 1 in 3,700 instead of the 1 in a million acceptable rate. So you can be part of the solution. I guess that's what we're here is, you know, I know I rushed the presentation and I'm not really the one that normally gives the presentation, but I do think this is an important thing to keep our eye on and for us to know more about, to make sure that we verify all of this data that's been given to us by these companies that are doing this research. They don't come and monitor. We need to monitor. Just the way Interagenics, just the way Willowbrook, Illinois installed air monitors, that's what we're pushing for. So one of the obstacles that we've had is working with TCEQ and EPA. They were not on the same page. TCEQ will say that there's no problem. EPA says there's a problem, and they're kind of not in agreement with each other. So we've been working with Congressman Cuellar and trying to get the EPA and then our state reps to Senator Zaffarini to get TCEQ to the table and hash all of this out and make sure that we're all on the same page. We're just asking people to sign up with us, to stay involved and informed. We were supposed to meet with EPA in Washington in June 1st, but because of COVID, they kind of canceled the meeting, but we still want to go over there and talk to them and see how we can figure this out, because the EPA is revising their rules this year for what is allowable, what is not allowable. The push is to completely transition away from ethylene oxide altogether, because there really is no safe level of ethylene oxide. So the idea is stop using it, and you know, there's other alternatives that they can use. It's just going to cost them some money to, you know, switch their business model. But we're just asking that they install safer methods instead of ethylene oxide, demand that the EPA, the city, and the UISD install air quality monitors, demand that the EPA hold a community outreach meeting in Laredo, collaborate with the City of Laredo and Public Health Authority to begin a voluntary blood testing program. We have been working on that over the past 6-7 months. And then ask the EPA to strengthen their revisions to ethylene oxide rules and standards. So that would require minor sources to be held to the same standard as major sources. That's what I was talking about earlier, is that since it's a small company, they don't have to adhere to the same standards as a major source would, even though the amount that they're putting out puts them as one of the top emitters in the country. So there's a disconnect there between how the EPA classifies these companies. That's it.
Something like the funding with our road.
Yeah. So
Disproportionate.
we're looking for, honestly, we're looking for air monitors. We're looking for support from however we can get them, because TCEQ doesn't monitor for ethylene oxide. They don't monitor for this kind of chemical, and the monitors that they do have won't pick it up. And then the EPA has a program, but you have to apply for a grant. The most that they'll give you is $500,000. To do something like this, to monitor, it could cost more than that.
How much is it to how much, what's it cost?
Well, like in Willowbrook, they spent over $1 million for all the different monitors. It's not just putting the monitors, but it's having people like collect the data and analyze the data. So
I just petitioned right now.
Huh?
I just petitioned right now.
Yay! I hope you all join with us. You know, support the efforts, and I know that there's people in the community that are like their PR team, and they try to say that it's not a big deal, but you know, just because you can't see it and smell it doesn't mean it's not there. And if it's not there, great. But if it is there, we need to figure out a way not to clean it out of our air. So that's why we got clean air as a human right.
Are you planning to shut them out, or?
Excuse me?
Are you planning to shut that plant?
Well, they own their own plant. I mean, they're not violating any policy right now. There's TCEQ, they're still within their permit. Mm-hmm. They're allowed. It's just, you know, up to us to.
Why would the school district also get involved in this?
They are involved. Okay. Yeah. So we've already we've gone to this school district. They're involved. The county's involved. So we're building the coalition of supporters to try to help us get these monitors, and then, you know, you just signed up, so everybody can sign up and help us out. But
just to follow up with that, have they developed or seen any of the kids, if there's any clusters involved there?
We're studying that because the way that the state monitors cancer is that they do it by county. So we've asked for just Laredo, not the whole county, because they're saying that our cancer rate is not high. But a lot of people from Laredo, they go to Mexico also, or they go out of town to get treatment. And so it's not gonna come out in the data that they have if you're going across to get treatment. So that's also a factor too. But
Also, it takes, you said, like 20 years for it to start seeing it.
39 years. So when they were trying to figure out what was going on, when they would go door to door, every household that they spoke to had at least one person with cancer, if not everybody in the house had cancer.
What about the people working in the plant? Do they get cancer or not?
We don't have that data.
Anything that is not measurable is not manageable. So we need data, we need to have it,
Yeah.
data. In order to,
If you get more information, I was at a meeting in Phoenix and Department of Homeland Security is looking at, kind of going green. And this is one of the items that they're looking at. They're gonna meet in Miami here in a couple of weeks. And they're gonna go to Oregon. And I invite them here in Laredo and see if I can get them down. And it's upper management with the DHS. And, it's an opportunity to sit there, go a little bit further with this, going with DHS because they are looking at, trying to go green in some manner. And if this is something that works with, international trade, as you stated, but you have to provide good solid data and offer a more viable solution than just, asking the company to shut down or making them change something and, do more studies, but something that'll help improve the trade statistics. They would probably give a bigger ear. So.
Well, let me know. I'll meet with them. I'd love
close to world trade.
It is, and like I said, I mean, your employees are working outside, they're breathing in, I mean, they could get dizzy, they could faint,
How about as a business owner, is there monitors that we could buy for our business to see if we can, that are within a budgetable range?
Yes, there are, and we can get that information to you all. The Clean Air Coalition other people couldn't be here today, but if you guys would like for them to come next meeting, they can bring that information also. And have a shorter
Gene's right here,
presentation.
you could sit to target the LEDs, economic development, you could sit there.
Maybe we could do an action.
What am I being volunteered for?
Again?
Funding, yeah.
Maybe
No,
an
but,
action item for next meeting? Action item?
For what?
To vote for something, to do something or what?
Budget.
So we'll put it on the agenda for next meeting to continue the discussion, but for now, check us out on Facebook, the Clean Air Laredo Coalition, and help us and just join with us.
I have a quick question on it, if you don't mind. I'm just trying to think, they're using it for medical devices for sterilization, and it's been in a process that was approved, I'm sure, by FDA and other folks. Would it touches something like a medical device that's all of a sudden non-toxic again? Or is it just because it becomes in the air and has some stuff there that all of a sudden it becomes toxic? Or what, because when it goes onto the deal, it's not changing its chemical composition, it's just sterilizing something.
Right.
So how is it all of a sudden that it's good for medical stuff, for surgeries and everything else, and it's not toxic, yet it is toxic because EPA found somewhere 5 years ago that it's toxic now?
I can't answer that question.
That'll be for the
But-
next question for next week.
Yeah, but I do know that the danger for with it right now is just mostly the airborne nature of it and the us breathing it in. So, and I know that
So it
over
would
time
seem-
it dissipates.
It would seem to me that all of the employees that work in that would be subject to this high cancer risk that you're saying. And it seems to me we ought to be able to find out how many of those employees have had cancer over 18 years. And if none of them have, then what danger is there really? And if only one or two have out of however many, well then, and that meets those acceptable or high risk levels, then maybe we should pursue it. But how many people that are there in contact with it daily and breathing it daily have actually come up with cancer?
Well, the thing is, it's only like about 50 to 70 employees, and you're assuming that the employees have worked there the entire time. And even if they have, they might not have had the exposure to develop the cancer, right? Because cancer develops depending on everybody's bodies, right? So not everybody's going to be the same, but just because they haven't now doesn't mean that they won't later. And we may not, like again, it may not be an issue, but If it's already been determined that it is a carcinogen, they have been exposed to it. I know that some of their employees, they do wear masks if they're in the chamber and things like that, but the off-gassing and all of that, I can't really answer that for you. I don't know. But, you know, if they're in the building, I don't know if that affects it, if it's being.
It just seems to me that if they're in a concentrated area with it, there ought to be some kind of higher indication of sickness from them. Because once it gets out in the city, I'm not saying it's not a risk, I'm just saying, are we calling this becoming a Chicken Little type thing? The sky's falling when it's not really falling. I don't know, I'm just asking the
Well,
question.
Chicken Little was right.
Well, it was a nut that fell, yeah, but it wasn't really the sky, it was a nut that fell. But what I'm getting at is that, you know, I would really like to see what really is the risk. Just because somebody says it's determined, because the numbers I saw up there was showing it's 5,000 times more, and I did the math on my calculator, and it was not 1 million, not even close to 1 million, not even less than 1 million. So I'm not sure where those numbers are coming from. I'd really like to have a closer look at that.
Well,
what he's also saying is we don't want to, you know, from outside sources come in and put a little agenda on our head. We want to investigate and make sure something you said, you can't measure, you can't manage. And then how do we get it to measure and make sure what is the actual risk and not just be throwing out numbers out there and maybe the one that came out to you, that city had very different things going on and the percents were high, but just make sure we'll pursue it and or how do you measure before we start throwing out numbers or scaring people when maybe it's not an issue? And if it is, we need to fix it, but how do we get to that point of having an accurate measure and not from data that somebody threw at us like, and I'm guessing one of the solutions is by the air monitors. Air monitors.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't know if that's a solution, that's an accurate, or not. How do we analyze that? If air monitors are actually accurate and how do they, where do you install them, how far, you know, that's a whole different story.
That's where you would contract with a company that would handle the study for you. So we wouldn't, you know, go to Lowe's and put a monitor and then look at it and say, oh yeah, we're good. Like, no, I mean, we would have to do this the right way. We tried getting the blood marker study, and then, you know, that involves cooperation amongst different entities. At first they said yes, now they're saying no. They want to see the air monitoring data first. The blood study was take blood from a sample of however many that they were going to designate in the professional study that you need for it to be like an accurate sample, and check the amount of ethylene oxide that they have in their blood, because it lasts in your blood for 3 months. So that was something we were trying to do. We hit a wall with that one. We're still trying to get there, but now they want the air monitors first. And of course,
can you test, you said that blood testing, can anybody go and test?
it wouldn't be a study, but I mean, I don't know how it would work if you wanted to go get your blood tested for ethylene oxide. But
This is people from the coalition that live here, yeah.
It does cause cancer, that's not a doubt. I mean, it's like sniffing gasoline, you know.
it's like the Roundup thing.
So the problem with any health issue is that it's not just how likely are you gonna get it, it's what the percentage is that you might get it. You might get it, if I smoke, I might not get cancer if you get smoke, but smoking causes cancer, there's no question about it. So if there's the air that's contaminated, there is a problem. The employees might all be wearing, you know, spacesuits for all we know. So it's just a matter of looking more into it, I believe.
Yeah, it's the risk, not the, like, there was, you know, it's like if you drive without wearing a seatbelt, you know, the risk is higher. Are you gonna die in an accident? Maybe not, but that doesn't mean that it's still safe for you to do. So they have to evaluate risk, not for sure, you know, what's gonna happen. But all valid points, all great questions. You know, we don't wanna scare the community, but we do wanna get to the bottom of it, so that's the whole point.
Thank you, Ms. Perez, for your presentation and your.
I tried to be quick.
If there's not anything else, I guess anything for other business? Have we had anything on other business?
Any proposed agenda items? Gene, you always have something on there? Nope.
Well, first I want to apologize for missing the February meeting. I was in quarantine and I know we're not doing Zoom options, and so I apologize for that, but it was for the safety of everybody. So.
Thank you. Appreciate you not coming.
I don't have any.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, I'll let him finish.
Well, yeah, I mean, you asked if I had any agenda items for next time. No, not at this time.
Mr. Morris?
I just want to say thank you for letting me come. It's my first time. I wasn't able to make the last meeting either. But I would just like to ask if there's a scope of work for this committee that I can look at to see what we're trying to accomplish? I know you guys have been doing it for over a year now, or however long it is, but I just would like to know what is our scope of work and what are we trying to focus on?
Is that in the bylaws?
Or the bylaws, or whatever it
It's
is.
in the website.
She sent it to all of
City
us.
of Laredo web.
I want to ask her and she'll send it to you by email.
Yeah, Robert, I can show you where I can get that off the City of Laredo website.
Oh, okay.
You know, and, we had Gene was there and a couple of other individuals. Commissioner came down, and when he came down here, he was working on establishing a southern border work group, which is actually starting to move into play. Robert was actually invited to participate, as well as myself, and I'm the team lead. So it's a customs operations advisory work group, which will kind of benefit the area. I know there's a lot of experts in here, and I'm going to see how many people I can get from this group for initially. So knowing that Robert's got in there, I want to sit there and see when they start moving this project along, to sit there and see what we could offer. Obviously, you're going to get the chair if I can, and some other individuals. So I just don't see where this moves, who they else are going to invite on here, because it's really affecting the southern border. And I would kind of hope that we, as you heard, the commissioner, the individuals that participated in that room, he was really looking forward to sit there, see how we could expedite the flow of trade, how we can make this a more seamless process, looking at the 21st century framework, and using automation. And so there's a lot of factors involved, and on top of that, we have a unique process because we have to incorporate the Mexican broker as well, and then we have a drayage process, and taking the volume that we have in here. So I'm looking maybe that we could have something for the next agenda when I get more information, and we can provide that. So.
Perfect, thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion, second.
Thank you.
In favor? Aye. Thank you.